In many African villages, there are rules people obey without question, not because they understand them, but because those who tried to question them disappeared before they could give answers. They say your shadow is not just darkness. It is not just a reflection of your body. It is a silent companion, tied to your spirit, watching everything you do. And if it ever begins to behave strangely, if it ever stops obeying you, you must act quickly, because once your shadow finds another owner, it may never return. This is the story of the day my shadow followed someone else. The village of Amwoka sat quietly between two thick forests, where the trees grew so tall that even sunlight struggled to pass through. It was not a poor village, nor was it particularly rich, but it was careful. Careful with words, careful with strangers, careful with things that could not be explained. Children were raised differently there. They were not only taught how to farm, fetch water, or greet elders. They were taught rules, strange rules, rules that sounded like stories, until someone broke them. Never whistle at night. Never answer your name if it is called from the bush. Never look directly into a mirror at midnight. And one rule stood above all others. Never ignore your shadow. Chinedu had heard that rule many times growing up. But like most children, he never really believed it. Chinedu was not a stubborn boy, but he was curious. The kind of curiosity that made him ask questions others avoided. The kind that made elders uncomfortable. Why can't we whistle at night? He once asked his grandmother. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked around, as if making sure no one else was listening. Then she said quietly, because something might whistle back, that answer stayed with him. Not because he believed it, but because of how she said it. Low, careful, almost afraid. Still, as the years passed, Chinedu began to outgrow those fears. Or at least, he thought he did. At 17, he considered himself old enough to separate truth from superstition. Old enough to think logically. Old enough to ignore stories about shadows and spirits. That was his first mistake. It was a quiet afternoon when everything started. The kind of afternoon where the air feels heavy. And even the birds seemed too tired to sing. Chinedu had gone to the stream alone. The path was familiar, lined with dry leaves that crunched beneath his feet. Usually, he would meet other villagers along the way. But that day, he saw no one. Even the stream was unusually silent. No laughter, no chatter, just the soft movement of water against stones. He filled his bucket slowly, glancing around from time to time. A strange feeling lingered in his chest, as though he was being watched. He shook it off. "You're imagining things," he muttered. But as he turned to leave, he noticed something. The sunlight hit the ground at an odd angle, and his shadow looked stretched, longer than usual. He stepped forward. It followed, but not immediately. There was a delay. Smell, almost unnoticeable, but enough to make his heart skip. Chine du froze. Then slowly, he raised his hand. His shadow remained still for half a second. Then it lifted its hand too. A cold chill ran down his spine. No, that's not possible," he said under his breath. He laughed nervously. "It's just the sun. The angle. That's all." He took another step, this time watching closely. Again, the delay. Slight but real. His throat went dry. He quickly lifted the bucket and began walking faster. Then faster, until he was almost running. By the time he reached the compound, his breathing was uneven. He dropped the bucket and turned immediately. His shadow stood behind him, perfectly normal, moving exactly as he did. Chinedu stared at it for a long moment. Then slowly, he forced himself to relax. "I'm overthinking," he said. But deep inside, Something had already begun. That evening, the sky burned orange as the sun prepared to disappear. Chinedu sat beside his mother, watching her sort vegetables. He hesitated before speaking. "Mama." She hummed softly in response. "Can a shadow act on its own?" Her hand stopped moving. Slowly, she looked up at him. "What kind of question is that?" "I'm just asking." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Did something happen?" Chinedu hesitated, then shrugged. "Nothing serious. I just noticed something strange earlier." Silence fell between them. Then his mother spoke. Her voice was calm, but firm. "Listen to me carefully, Chinedu." He swallowed. "If your shadow ever behaves in a way you cannot explain, you must not ignore it." Her gaze locked onto his. "Do you understand?" He nodded slowly. "What happens if I ignore it?" he asked. His mother didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked toward the darkening sky. Then she said quietly, "It may begin to look for someone else." A sudden wind swept through the compound, and for a brief moment, Chinedu felt something brush past his feet. He looked down. His shadow had stretched unnaturally far behind him. That night, sleep did not come easily. Chinedu lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. That slight delay, that unnatural movement. At some point, he finally drifted off. But his sleep was not peaceful. He found himself standing in an open field. The sky above him was dark. Too dark. No stars. No moon. Just emptiness. He looked down. No shadow. His heart began to race. "Hello." He called out. No response. Then a voice. Soft, familiar. "Chinedu." He turned quickly. No one. "Chinedu." This time, it came from behind him. Slowly, he turned, and there it was. His shadow, standing upright, detached from him, watching him. Its form was darker than darkness itself, and then it smiled. Chinedu woke up with a gasp. Sweat covered his body. His chest rose and fell rapidly, and for a few seconds, he was too afraid to look down. There are places where things happen that cannot be undone. Places where the line between the living and the unseen becomes thin. And in Umwoka, the market was one of those places. The morning came slowly, too slowly. Chinedu woke before the first cock crowed, his body stiff from a night filled with uneasy dreams. For a moment, he lay still, listening. The village was quiet, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind that felt like something was waiting, watching. He swallowed and sat up. Carefully, slowly, he turned his head toward the floor. There it was, his shadow, curled beside him, normal, still attached. He let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "See," he whispered to himself, "nothing is wrong." But even as he said it, he didn't fully believe it. By mid-morning, the village had come alive. Women balanced baskets on their heads. Children ran barefoot across the sandy paths. And men gathered under trees discussing matters that always sounded serious. Chinedu walked beside his friend Sola, heading toward the market. Sola was talking something about a wrestling match happening the following week, but Chinedu wasn't listening. His eyes kept drifting downward, watching, measuring, timing. Step, shadow follows. Step, shadow follows. But sometimes, just sometimes, it felt like it was slightly off. "You're not even listening," Sola said suddenly. Chinedu blinked. "Yeah, I've been talking for the past 5 minutes." "Oh, sorry. I didn't sleep well." Sola laughed. "Or maybe one of those village spirits came to visit you." Chinedu forced a smile. "If only you knew," he thought. The market was loud, but not in the way Chinedu remembered. The voices seemed distant, echoing, as if they were coming from far away. The air felt thick, heavy. Even the colors around him seemed duller. He stopped walking. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. "Wait," he said. Sola turned. "What is it?" Chinedu didn't answer. He slowly looked down. His shadow was there, but it looked unclear, like smoke, flickering slightly at the edges. His chest tightened. "Sola," he whispered. But before he could say anything else, a strange sensation ran through his body, like something pulling away from him, gently, but firmly. Then it happened, so quickly, yet so slowly. Chinedu blinked, and when he looked down again, his shadow was gone, completely gone. His breath caught in his throat. "What?" he whispered. He turned in a full circle. People moved around him, buying, selling, laughing, living, as if nothing had happened. But Chinedu knew. Something had just been taken. No, he muttered. His hands began to shake. Then he saw it. At first, it was just a movement in the distance, a shape among shapes. But as his eyes focused, his heart stopped. There, walking calmly through the crowd, was a man dressed in white, and behind him, following perfectly, was Chinedu's shadow. The man did not look unusual at first glance. He was tall, calm, dressed in spotless white cloth that seemed untouched by dust. But there was something about him, something that didn't belong. He walked slowly, deliberately, and the people around him did not react. They brushed past him, spoke around him, ignored him completely, as if he wasn't there. But Chinedu could see him, and more importantly, he could see what followed him, his shadow, except it wasn't entirely his anymore. It moved too smoothly, too willingly, as if it had already chosen its new owner. "No!" Chinedu shouted. He pushed past people, ignoring their protests. "Excuse me. Watch it. Are you mad?" But he didn't care. His eyes were locked on the man in white. The distance between them should have been closing, but it wasn't. No matter how fast he moved, the man remained just out of reach, like a mirage, like something not bound by the same rules. "Stop!" Chinedu yelled. For a brief moment, the man paused, just for a second, and then he turned his head slightly. Not fully, just enough. Enough for Chinedu to see part of his face. And what he saw made his blood run cold. The man was smiling. It was not a friendly smile, not a kind one. It was knowing, deep, ancient, as though the man understood something Chinedu did not, as though this moment had always been meant to happen. Then, the man continued walking, and just like that, he was gone, vanished into the crowd, along with the shadow. Chinedu stopped running. His chest heaved as he struggled to breathe. He turned around wildly. "Did you see that?" he asked the nearest woman. She frowned. "See what?" The man in white. She shook her head. "There are many men in white here. No, this one he had." Chinedu stuttered. His words failed him. He turned to another person. "You saw him, right?" The man looked irritated. "Young man, are you all right?" Chinedu stepped back slowly, realization creeping in. They didn't see him. They didn't see anything, except him. The journey back home felt longer than usual. Sola walked beside him in silence now, concern written all over his face. "You're scaring me," Sola finally said. "What exactly did you see?" Chinedu didn't respond, because how could he explain it? How could he tell someone that his shadow had left him, that it had chosen someone else, when even he didn't fully understand it? So he remained silent, and for the first time in his life, he was afraid of the ground beneath his feet, because no matter how many times he looked, there was nothing there. Night came quickly, too quickly. Chinedu sat in his room, staring at the small lamp beside him. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for it. Then, he lit it. The flame flickered to life. Soft, unsteady, and slowly, he turned his head, looking at the wall. His breath caught. There was no shadow. Nothing. Just an empty wall. And in that moment, the reality finally settled in. This was no longer a strange occurrence. This was not something that would pass. This was real, permanent,